All right. So they are just setting up everything. I don't know if you guys heard me. They're setting up everything for the press conference. They did mic checks, sound checks. I am listening to the people in the background. It's interesting what you learn when you just listen. Hopefully, y'all can hear this. Drop a 1 or a yes. So what did we learn from the sentencing today? There were 2 weapons. So like I said, not only is Brian a knife-wielding K-bar ninja, but now he's actually a double knife-carrying ninja. All right, so I am in Pacific Standard Time, which is 1 hour behind Idaho. As a former Idahoan, I still can't get these times right. He handed, yes, he did. I would say so. Here's Bill Thompson. So we know who's speaking today. I got to do the dog and pony show, guys. It's going to be hard for me not to comment, but I'll hold my silence until they're done. I'll take a lot of good notes. What a win for Idaho, guys.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Dollinger. I am the Chief of Police of the Moscow Police Department. Thank you for joining us. Today marks the conclusion of a case that has profoundly impacted the University of Idaho, the City of Moscow, the State of Idaho, and communities nationwide. Today's sentencing of Brian Kohberger brings the legal process to a close following his conviction for the brutal murders of Kayla Gonsalves, Madison Bogan, Xana Kernul, and Ethan Chapin. While this marks the end of a long and challenging journey through the criminal justice system, we acknowledge that for the families, friends, and loved ones of these 4 young people, the grief does not end because the losses are permanent and the pain remains. We want to express our deepest gratitude for their strength and resilience during this challenging time. We will honor their loved ones' memories and reaffirm our commitment to ensuring their lives are not forgotten. This investigation, one of the most complex and high-profile cases in our state's history, was made possible by an extraordinary level of collaboration. From local and state police officers to federal agents and analysts, as well as prosecutors, forensics teams, and technical experts. It also took immense courage, patience, and resilience from a grieving community whose role was invaluable. From the very beginning of this tragedy, Moscow Police Department and our law enforcement partners never lost sight of the mission, which was to bring justice for the victims and their families, and to hold accountable the person who committed these horrible crimes. Despite the complexity of this case, our team never wavered. They never gave up, and we completed the mission. During this investigation, I was fortunate to witness the level of professionalism, expertise, drive, and passion that each member of the investigative team brought to the overall effort. And it was truly awe-inspiring. To all who came to our aid and assisted in this immense undertaking, I cannot express my gratitude enough. We are forever thankful. And I would be remiss if I did not thank the communities of Moscow and the University of Idaho. For weeks on end during this investigation, the support you provided to our team was greatly appreciated. The numerous phone calls, letters, and seemingly endless stream of food helped keep our spirits high and encouraged us to press on. Today, we want to provide an opportunity to hear from the key agencies involved in the investigation, prosecution, and overall response to this case. Each agency played a vital role in pursuit of truth and accountability. Further remarks will be provided by the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, followed by the Idaho State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Office of the Attorney General. Each speaker will provide brief comments, followed by a limited Q&A session. With that, I'd like to introduce Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, representing the Latah County Prosecutor's Office.
Thank you, Anthony. Welcome, everybody. It's been a long time since we've been able to stand in the same room together. You have to listen to me talk. I'm sorry. First off, I want to thank the folks here in Ada County. I can tell you I would much prefer to be in Latah County right now and be able to talk to the people most directly impacted by this. But Ada County has been a phenomenal support and protector for the integrity of this case. And I just want to send that shout out right now. So today, you're all, I think, listening in either in person or with the live stream. We have reached the conclusion of the judicial process, and we believe we've achieved accountability and finality and certainty for everyone who has suffered from this, so we can try to move on. As you are aware, Mr. Koberger pleaded guilty to all 5 counts of the indictment. He pleaded guilty as charged. There was no plea bargain to change charges, drop charges. He pleaded guilty straight up, and he admitted under oath to Judge Hippler the allegations are true. He has also received a life and death sentence, and that he is going into the Department of Corrections custody, and he will remain there until he dies. And our communities are protected from him. Our communities are safe from him. And we have finality and conclusion, not just for the families, but for everyone who suffered because of this. Chief Dollinger talked about the extraordinary teamwork on this case. I can tell you that Ashley Jennings, my senior deputy, and I, we were with the investigators from day one. We worked as a team beyond any team that I've seen in my almost 33 years as a Latah County prosecutor and 45 years as an attorney in Idaho. This level of collaboration is indescribably phenomenal. And in this room, we have representatives of the FBI and here, of course, Special Agent Grover. We have representatives from the Idaho State Police. We have representatives from the Moscow Police Department. We have representatives from the Office of the Idaho Attorney General. I can tell you, I will be forever grateful for the assistance that Jeff and I, the head of the criminal division, and his deputy attorneys general, Ingrid and Maddie, standing beside him, offered to us. I don't know that we would have been able to reach the conclusion that we have today as successfully without their brilliant and dedicated work. And they too have lived this case from the get-go. Our hearts and prayers go out to the families, not just the immediate biological or legal families, but the university family, the 1122 King Street family. You all saw the group picture, and you've seen that group picture so many times over the past 2.5 years. And now you have real faces to go with those young, vibrant people who, 4 of whom were killed 12 hours, half day after that picture was taken. We respect the families. We realize that we had tough decisions to make, and we made them, but we did not make them in a vacuum. As I said in court today, we reached out to the families. We asked their thoughts. We listened to what they had to say. We accept and recognize that not everybody agrees with the decision we made, but this isn't a popularity contest. And we made what we thought was the most appropriate decision under the law and on the facts to give this case closure in a sense it would never be realized otherwise. Judge Hippler talked today about, I guess, the fallacy of expecting that there would be some miraculous coming clean and disclosure from the defendant. In the first instance, as the judge said, he doesn't have the power to compel that. We, the state, don't have the power to compel that. And as a practical matter, it would not be helpful. It would give him a forum to share whatever he thought to control the dialogue. Not going to happen to our victims. We can't allow that to happen. So I'll say this with caution. I look forward to your questions. I will be perfectly honest with you. I will answer them as best I can. If I can't tell you the answer to something, I'll tell you. And I ask for your assistance and your respect as we walk through that, because there are still people who are suffering, and I'm not going to victimize families. I'm not going to victimize the deceased again. And I'll just tell you that if we get those sorts of questions. But we'll get that in a little bit. Right now, what I would like to do is hand the podium over to Colonel Bill Gardner from the Idaho State Police so he can share his agency's perspective on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Bill Gardner, Director of the Idaho State Police. To the families, your courage and strength throughout this painful process, it indeed kept us moving forward. Your strength, and particularly your love for one another, was inspiring, and it motivated all of us. You've carried a burden no one should ever have to bear. This investigation demanded the very best from everyone involved. Crime scene teams, forensic scientists, intelligence analysts, and investigators answered the call with professionalism, precision, and resolve. They did not do it for recognition. They did it because 4 innocent lives were taken, and the victims and their families deserve nothing less. It is clear this case required a team approach. Not only did the Moscow Police Department, the Latah County Sheriff's Office, the Idaho State Police, and the FBI come together quickly, but others provided significant assistance behind the scenes. I'd like to highlight a few of those. I personally want to thank Colonel Paris of the Pennsylvania State Police. Once this case moved across the country, the Pennsylvania State Police went out of their way to provide resources and support while our people were on the ground there. Also, it's important to note that from the moment this case began, Governor Little was fully supportive of the investigative process. He provided funding and support to make sure the job was done right. And finally, as was already mentioned, the Idaho Attorney General's office provided significant input and help during the preliminary motions. We relied heavily upon their expertise as we moved throughout this whole process. As law enforcement officers, we often say that this is more than a job, it's a calling. This case reminds us why we answer that call, why we stand for victims. Why we stand for victims, why we fight. In this case, why we fight pure evil, and why we keep going. Even when the road is long and answers are hard to find. In this horrific case, I am proud of the and answers are hard to find. In this horrific case, I am proud of the work that was done and the people who carried it out. and the people who carried it out. They exemplified and the people who carried it out. They exemplify the very best of our profession and helped bring closure to 4 families. I'll now turn the podium over to Salt Lake City FBI Field Office Supervisory Senior Resident Agent, Brett Grover.
Good afternoon. My name is Brett Grover. I'm the Supervisory Senior Resident Agent in our Coeur d'Alene office of the FBI, which is part of our FBI Salt Lake City division. On behalf of the FBI, we offer our deepest condolences to the families of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xander Canoodle, and Ethan Chapin. The culmination of this case was a long time coming, and we hope the victims' families and friends have some sense of peace in knowing that Brian Kohberger is being held responsible and accountable for his heinous actions. The FBI is proud to have supported the Moscow Police Department in the state of Idaho with the investigation and prosecution of this case. Countless hours have gone into this investigation. The FBI dedicated significant resources to include digital and forensic analysis, intelligence support from our folks at FBI headquarters and field offices around the country, and victim services, which continue to this day. Today's sentencing also demonstrates how the responsible use of investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, can transform a crime scene into accountability and closure. The IgG process involves the use of DNA analysis combined with traditional genealogy research to generate investigative leads for unsolved violent crimes. In late 2022, IgG provided a crucial investigative direction for investigators working this case. But I want to be clear, IgG was just one tool that led us here today. It's a powerful complement to the core investigative work done by both the FBI and our partner agencies. The bottom line is that successful cases like this are about strong partnerships and a shared goal. The goal of keeping our communities safe and providing a measure of justice for the families.
You fucking liars.
I'll now turn the time over to the Attorney General for the state of Idaho.
You fucking liars.
Good afternoon. I'm Raul Labrador. I'm the Attorney General of the state of Idaho. Today's a heavy day for the families who lost their children, for the community of Moscow, and for the entire state of Idaho. With the sentencing today, a painful chapter closes in one of the darkest and most heartbreaking moments in our state's history. We're here because 4 young lives were stolen from us far too soon. They were full of promise. They had dreams and aspirations, people who loved them, and communities that believed in them. Their loss is immeasurable. Their absence is felt every day, not only by their families, but by classmates, friends, neighbors, and all of us who came to know their names and their stories. There is no sentence that can bring true justice for this kind of evil. Nothing we do today can undo the heartache or fill the empty chairs at family tables. But today's sentencing ensures one thing, that the perpetrator will never again walk free. In fact, he will never harm another family.
You fucking
I want to
traitor.
extend my deepest gratitude to Prosecutor Bill Thompson, whose steady leadership has guided this case from the beginning, to the people of Latah County for their trust and commitment to justice, and to the state of Idaho, and to the state, also to the local and federal law enforcement communities who have been focused on bringing justice for the victims. I also want to recognize Jeff Nye, who's the chief of my office's criminal law division, and the team of attorneys in my office who work side by side with local prosecutors. Their contributions were quiet but vital. They help protect the grand jury's work. They push back against legal challenges and successfully defended the use of advanced forensic tools that helped identify Kohberger. These were groundbreaking legal efforts done with resolve, with care, and in the name of public safety. Their outstanding legal work spared the families and the public from a drawn-out, painful trial that would have reopened wounds and prolonged the family's agony. When I became the Attorney General 2.5 years ago, I interviewed Jeff Nye. He was not the chief of the criminal division at the time. And I asked him if there was anything he would change in the office of Attorney General. If you get to know Jeff, he had a long list. It was a very long list of things that he would change in the criminal division. But the first thing he talked about was the fact that our office was not helping local prosecutors with their prosecution. It was a take it or leave it kind of approach, that we either took the case and handled all the matter, or we did nothing at all. And he said that there were important cases where we could actually assist in the office of Attorney General. It's one of the reasons I hired him to be my chief of the criminal division. And I think today culminates the wise decision that he had to make those changes and the important change that we made in the office. This moment didn't come easily. It was the result of tireless effort, careful preparation, and unwavering pursuit of the truth. Behind the scenes, our legal teams worked diligently to defend dozens of legal challenges. Their efforts not only helped ensure a just outcome, they also spared the families and the community from the painful trial and endless appeals that would have reopened deep wounds. To the families of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, no words from any of us, no legal ruling, and no sentence from a judge can heal what you've endured. But I want you to know this. My sincere wish is that you have not carried this burden alone. Idaho grieves with you. Idaho stands with you, and your children's names will not be forgotten. We honor them not only with our words today, but with our commitment to protecting others in their memory. I will never stop fighting for the people of Idaho, and I thank every single member of this community who has just reached out to the families and supported them. And may God bless the souls of the victims and the families who have suffered.
Bullshit, Raul. That's why you're being sued right now by your constituents. Bullshit.
Now we will transition into our question and answer phase.
Shove
Joining me
that
at the
challenge
podium will
coin
be
right up your
Will Thompson from the prosecutor's office and the two lead
pee-pee
investigators,
hole.
Brett Payne and Darren Gilbertson. Just a couple of things before we
What a
begin.
fucking cover up.
We recognize that everyone has a lot of questions. We're going to try to do our best to get to as many as we possibly can. Also, keep in mind that there are still some things that we are unable to talk about because of either privacy interests for the victims and their families, and
Because of your cover up.
currently in the court. So if those items do come up, then that will certainly be the answer that you will
Little
receive.
man, look at him back there.
And to keep this sort of orderly, I will try to be the one to
Bald head
point out
Payne.
who's got their hands up.
You fucking took an oath to protect your country,
Right there.
but you're going to protect
Yes.
your brotherhood. Fucking corrupt.
What can you tell us about the released documents that the police department is working on putting online, and what can we expect from that?
Certainly. As we put out in that press release, I hope everybody can understand the immense amount of information that's in this investigation is going to take a lot of time to prepare. It has to be gone through legally to be redacted or figured out whether or not it can actually be released. So I did get word today. It sounds like our website will be going live hopefully this afternoon. There should be another press release coming out in the next few hours to show that website so that people can start accessing that. Initially, what is going to be on there, and certainly this is just for the Moscow Police Department because we're only the holders of our records, but it will be all of our police reports from this investigation. So just the documents there.
Yeah, your fucking
They'll be
fake
redacted,
reports,
ready to
I
go,
bet.
again, free of charge for the public. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can, so we wanted to get those out to everyone.
Chief, from the very beginning, your department was saying this was a targeted attack. Can you now say who was the target and what's your evidence to show that?
I'll turn that question over to the investigators to answer that one.
Yeah, it's
I think
because of all
Darren and I
the
have,
drug lords.
the evidence suggested that there was a reason that this particular house was chosen. What that reason is, we don't know. We don't know who the target was, and we're not going to speculate on that up here today. But we can tell you that for whatever reason, Mr. Coburger chose that residence. Perhaps it's the location, layout, we don't know. But that's, to the best of my knowledge, that's what that statement likely led to.
Because that's what they told me to say.
Haley got their KHQ. There was a social media account that surfaced that has long had speculation that it was
Papa
Brian
Roger.
Coburger. Can you talk at all about the Papa Roger potential connection, if any?
Right, there was no connection. There wasn't at all. We looked into every bit of it. We took a deep dive into it. We researched it.
It wasn't him.
It was not.
Yeah, duh.
Thank you. Cut that off.
Is it possible that there
Uh.
was a second or weapon?
Two weapons. Just say it. 2 weapons.
Is it possible?
Duh.
All the evidence shows and tells us that he used a knife, a K-bar knife. And that's a weapon we believe was used to commit all the murders.
It sounded like the Gonzalez family said that there was a second weapon that he was in his office.
Grill 'em. Brave woman.
Out of respect for the families, that's something that you'll have to get from them. If they wish to share that with you, it'd probably be through them, not through us.
And one more question.
Frickin' liar.
It seemed like he chose that house. There's no clues as to why he chose that house.
You know, after working in Moscow for several years as Chief Dollinger, that area is frequented by many, many people at all hours of the night when college is in session. So what Darren and I have surmised is that perhaps it's the old hiding in plain sight. There's lots of people around. There's lots of vehicles around at all hours. It's not isolated where you'd be noticed, or that's where that comment comes from.
It does. And no, it doesn't make sense. And it's if you're in that neighborhood at all, it's a very complicated neighborhood.
Yeah,
very
it's a
close
drug
in.
neighborhood. Just
But at
say
the
it.
same time, there's everything from college kids to adults. And there are
See?
people that have full-time jobs,
Told
part-time
you
jobs.
guys.
So any one of us could come and go in.
DA Thompson, during the plea hearing and then again today, it seemed like your voice quivered a bit when you were either putting up photographs or mentioning, and then again today, it seemed like your voice quivered a bit when you were either putting up photographs or mentioning the victims' names. I'm just wondering about the emotional toll. And I have one other question.
Yeah, you're right. My voice was quivering. Y'all were in there. There's a lot of powerful emotion. The losses are almost indescribable. And maybe my filters aren't as good as they might have been 45 years ago when I started in this business. But I think you also saw that even Judge Hippler was affected and impacted by this. There is no easy way to remain stiff-lipped and dry-eyed through this kind of tragedy. There just simply isn't.
Bad
We're not
actors.
aware of this yet, but there was a photograph where they zoomed in on a picture that Brian Koberger had on the defense counsel table. It was an image of a black heart. I don't know if you've heard this or you've seen the image. Hearing this, your thoughts?
First, I've heard of it.
Probably to calm him
There's
down.
something I need to say though real quick. This is the product of, I'm sure I'm getting old in my failed memory, but there's one other person I need to recognize, and this is very important to us because this was a key person that was going to take us through trial, and that's Josh Herward.
Yeah,
Former
call
United
him
States
out.
Attorney for the District of Idaho, who left office and voluntarily joined our office as a special deputy to help us. My apologies for the oversight as I wasn't reading my notes correctly, but thank you for that little interlude. Chief.
I guess my question is for Mr. Thompson, since you're still up there, and that may be the long time. You said that, it was your decision to accept this plea agreement. It brings finality, he will die in prison. But Corporal Phoniex said they don't know who the target was and why he targeted this house. Was there a reason why, as part of the agreement, you didn't require Ann Taylor to have her client sit down with you all and to answer some of these questions?
I think that Judge Hippler addressed that today very, very well. Of course, Judge Hippler addresses everything very well, we found. The law does not give the court or us the power to require a specific factual allocution. And just let me finish. And we recognize that. We recognize that we could have said, well, in order for us to move forward, we want a factual allocution. But I have to be perfectly candid. I don't believe that there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would be the truth. I don't believe that there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would be anything other than self-serving. And I don't believe there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would not further victimize the families. And so that just simply wasn't a factor. We made our decision based on our assessment of the law and the facts. We made our decision based on being able to obtain accountability and certainty, not just for the victims' families, but for the communities, for the state. And that's where our obligations go. In the end, the old Harry Truman thing, the buck stops on my desk. Well, that's what I got when I was elected prosecutor 33 years ago. I never dreamed it would involve something like this, but we don't shirk our responsibilities just because it got big and nasty.
Thank you. Corporal Payne and Lieutenant Gilbertson, first of all, I want to say to Corporal Payne that the Chamber family told me you called them every night during that nearly 7-week manhunt, even though you didn't have to. And I just think that that goes to show that there's some care you put into this. So that being said, I'm curious as to where you think or believe the murder weapon is, where you think or believe clothes Koberger was wearing that night are, how do you think he avoided forensics at the scene?
Well, I can just tell you, and forgive us if we go back and forth, it's just kind of how we roll. There is no evidence that we found that would lead us to any specific, even general location as to where the murder weapon or the clothes have been. And we searched. I mean, the FBI, again, to their credit, we had folks doing soil samples and so all sorts of things to try to come up with somewhere to start searching for these things, and we just never found it. As far as the forensics piece, I'll let Darren speak to
Yeah,
that.
and on the weapon, it wasn't a lack of trying. Everywhere that we had evidence of where he went, based upon phone records, based upon the evidence that we had gathered, we searched that. We went there. We did searches on the ground, in the water. We did searches. We sent soil samples to try to figure out maybe where a shovel had been used. So we searched everywhere that we possibly could, but the reality is we're looking for a singular small, it's not that small, but K-bar knife, and that's it. So it's endless of where it could have been, and we just were not able to find it. So
What about the clothes and his ability to avoid forensics at the scene, in a murder scene where we now know K-Victim's office was stabbed 34 times and then another victim was stabbed more?
right. So the reality is that somebody can carry this out and still not get covered in blood. That's the reality of it. And this does happen. And there's plenty of studies of that. And we've had some of the world's experts that we've asked those same questions because we've struggled with that. Why do we not find more here and there? And the reality was, if somebody has training, if somebody has thought about it, if somebody wears the right type of clothing, that could be the outcome. And that's what we were left with here.
Chief Casares with CNN, Mr. Thompson, did you do psychological testing on Brian Koberger? Did that weigh into your decision to have a plea deal? And the stabbings, multiple stabbings are very personal. How did you assess that mode of murder?
I can tell you that psychological testing was done with Mr. Koberger. The results of that do not rise to a defense to his conduct under Idaho law. The results of the various testing, most of it done by the defense on behalf of the defense, is also sealed by court order. So I can't speak to any specifics, but I can tell you, yes, psychological testing was done. I can also tell you that no, psychological testing where Mr. Koberger, where the defendant is going to be housed is going to be up to the Idaho Department of Correction. And that could very well change over time. And the reality is we will know about it after it happens.
And we already know where they're putting him. There is a mental ward.
Mr. Koberger's communications while he was incarcerated, and did he say anything that was helpful or give you any insight as to why he did this?
Yeah, we did monitor it, both while he was housed in Latah County, and then once he's moved down to Ada County. We have hundreds, thousands of hours of monitoring that was done, but there was nothing of evidentiary value that was gained from any of it.
Because he's innocent, you asshole.
Those conversations.
It's my understanding that the jail will not be releasing things that involve personal conversations with third parties. That ultimately would be a decision because the recordings are in possession of the two correctional facilities or detention facilities. But I'm pretty certain Latah County Sheriff's Office policy does not allow for that. And I would guess Ada County is similar. You can ask them.
FOIA that shit. We're gonna see his communications.
48 hours. Was there any evidence that Koberger was following the social media of any of the victims?
So, trust us, we wanted that to be the case. We've looked for a link and we have not found one. Not one.
Yeah, through the entire investigation, I think that's something that we need, that you want, is to help to understand this and say, well, what's the connection? What was the link? And so we had every resource possible and we worked that tirelessly, both from everything from his side, but all the victims and all the members of the house from their side. So we have never to this date found a single connection between him and any of the 4 victims or the 2 survivors.
That's because they want to.
Michael Ruiz from Fox News Digital. My questions for the investigators. You guys are going through this case. You got a lot of evidence about his background, his education, his training. You said earlier you couldn't identify a reason the house was targeted. Do you have a motive?
No. Duh. No.
We don't.
The motive is they want to void your constitutional right and get your IGG.
Question for Anthony Gallagher, actually. I remember when Anthony was beat cop, assigned to talk to us at the very beginning when all of this happened, and now you're running the show. So I wanted to ask, as a community member, has this case shaped and changed how you're doing this also?
It's changed everyone involved. How could it not? It was a devastating tragedy to our community, and our police department is part of that community, and it was very difficult for us as well. So, this is just one of those things that will not define us, but it is certainly a part of our history that we will never forget.
Yeah, they want to try to make their job easier and void our Constitution.
Associated Press, the perhaps unprecedented level of interest in support case like this in Idaho was matched by an extremely high level of secrecy with the case. The Gonzalez County has said that they're desperate for answers about what happened to their daughter. Do you anticipate most of the court documents being sealed, or are there things that you will specifically request remain sealed?
As far as court documents, Judge Shipler told us that he is going to work with the attorneys to go through every sealed document. Probably most of the documents were sealed for the purpose of protecting against tainting a jury pool. And those documents I would expect would become unsealed. Requests for discovery, various things like that. There are also documents in there that contain very personal, private information regarding victims and families. I expect those likely will not be released under Idaho's protections against what the law calls unwarranted invasions of personal privacy. I realize that can be frustrating for folks who want to be able to explore this thoroughly, but we have to balance, and the law balances the privacy of the people who have suffered, including the victims who are dead, with giving the public as much information as we responsibly.
Such a cover-up.
Alex Duggan, the spokesman review. I'm just wondering, did a lack of knowing the reason or the motive concern you?
You bet, Marley B. Thanks.
Because juries
I'm throwing you a love
want to
sign.
explore the motive or reason for a crime. And also, how do you as investigators and attorneys grapple with that? Because if you can't rationalize something irrational, then how do you continue knowing that maybe you won't get an answer?
Well, I'll tell you from an investigator standpoint, we already know and realize we often don't get to know that. We want it. We all do. We naturally.
Yeah,
want that.
FBI
But
guy.
The reality is, it's not something that we have to have or that we get. And the reality also is that oftentimes those very things that you're asking about, they're only known to one person. It's the person that commits those crimes. And I think that's probably what we have here.
And I
Run
would add that
along.
Going through this whole investigation, it was, I'd probably say it's easier than it was for Bill's offices. We were focused on a task. We had a task to do, and it was discovering evidence and interviewing folks and that sort of thing. So the motive necessarily doesn't play a part in that, right? Obviously it can, but we were just focused on getting the job done in the correct
Yeah,
way.
because the FBI told you what to do, Payne,
And from
little
the
man.
prosecutor's point of view, yeah, certainly lack of a clear motive is something that we think about and consider as we're preparing for trial, because we're going to have a jury of 12, ordinary, honest citizens there who wanted to figure this thing out. But we also, and I've also found that juries tend to follow the law. And even jurors who come in with strong feelings, they tend to follow the law that the judge gives. And there is no element of motive in Idaho law for murder. And so we set that aside as something that we were going to dwell on, whether there was clear proof of a specific motive, because we knew it wasn't legally required. And practically speaking, we knew it wasn't something that we possessed that we could give to the jury without speculating. And I'm sure as heck not going to stand in front of a bunch of 12 jurors and start speculating. We're going to give them the evidence.
They didn't have
And the
shit.
evidence in this case, what you heard at the time of his guilty plea back on the 2nd, that evidence was compelling, and it showed his guilt without having to worry about motive in a human sense.
These
Thank you
people
for the question.
have committed treason.
Did he say anything when he was arrested?
Yeah. So Brett, myself, and members of the FBI, we traveled back to Pennsylvania. We were there. And I know they hit on it earlier, but I'd be remiss without talking about the cooperation, the support that we had from them was absolutely incredible. From the time that we got on the ground with the Pennsylvania State Police and with the FBI back there, it was unbelievable. Anything that we needed, they were there to facilitate it. So we helped to shape what that looked like, what the arrest looked like, what took place.
That's not what she's
once,
getting at. Answer
they
the
were
question,
housed on the
Mr.
search
FBI
warrant,
guy.
was taken into custody. Brett and I were at another location, a barracks of the Pennsylvania State Police. And then he was brought to us, and we conducted an interview with him that night.
That's not what she was asking, and he knows
Talk
it.
about what he said.
So we went into this interview. We used a lot of influence and guidance from the FBI and their behavioral analysis unit. They helped us a ton in framing our interview strategy, rather. When we spoke to Mr. Koberger, we kept it pretty surface level to begin with, the idea being get him to speak and keep him speaking. It was pretty surface level. And then when we tried to get into things a bit more detailed, he decided to end the interview.
Because he's not
As soon as we
guilty.
tried to walk into the purpose of why we're there, which obviously he knows we're detectives from Idaho. So that's when we really started to shut down, and they just shut it down. So
What was his demeanor?
Calm, relaxed.
say very similar to what you see and whenever you see him in court.
Duh.
Yeah, Mike Baker from the New York Times. I'm wondering if you can talk about Mr. Koberger's family, whether you got much cooperation, tips, input from them along the way.
The only thing I'm really able to talk about is that we didn't get any tips or any evidentiary items from the family. So, and
Just wondering if you ever had any idea of what made Mr. Koberger take the plea deal yet?
No.
Can I ask a follow-up then? I know the report.
That was a short answer. You probably have time for a short follow-up.
Can I also ask a follow-up to the investigators? I know there was some reports that there was Koberger was hiding some container at the house. Did you ever determine what that was?
No, and the belief was in the one surviving roommates in her statement, and that's out there, was that she observed something in his hand when she saw him, but we don't know what it was.
I wonder if it was the container that held Kaylee's necklace for her dad that was mailed.
Testify about cleaning something off of this work computer. Some software experts. Was there any evidence that he had tried to wipe anything from his phone, software-wise? The bar tried to delete his name.
Yeah, and so this kind of goes into the connection to the victims as well. That's a similar question. We had the world's foremost experts on this look into it, and there was evidence that he had used software to wipe many of his devices relatively effectively. So there wasn't much evidence obtained after.
Of course not. What a standard answer.
I think he had one active phone, but I don't remember. So
This is
what we
bullshit.
had more at his home.
This is a freaking dog and pony show.
He regularly used software to try to wipe clear things off. He used VPN on his devices also.
Okay. Kevin Fixer with the Idaho Statesman. I'm hoping you can walk us through the decision to hand off the DNA process on the knife sheet over to Offram Labs, who's contracted by ISP, and then ultimately the FBI takes over that IgG process. And then Prosecutor Thompson, I'm curious if you had concerns about constitutional rights issues based on how the FBI conducted themselves in that portion.
I'll start and I'll just speak briefly to, when we were notified that we had DNA from the knife sheath, and it was a single source male DNA, touch DNA, then we knew that we had capabilities to take that further. So you're correct, the Idaho State Police has a contract with Offram Laboratories in Texas. So we flew that over there and they started the process of working that in what was the beginning of the IgG process. And at some point during it, we were working with the FBI, which we did closely throughout the entire case and every aspect of it. We talked and met with them, and they had further resources and some capabilities that we thought may get us somewhere quicker. And so we made the decision to then shift that to the FBI and continue that process there.
And as to your question about legal concerns, my simple answer is no. I didn't have legal concerns about how the FBI conducted their IgG investigation.
Yeah, their covert operation.
That was the subject of lengthy, detailed, painfully detailed motions and briefing, and Mr. Nye rose to the occasion and was able to address all of that. But in the end, it's simply no different than sending somebody undercover into any place to gather information. And I was not concerned about the legality of it. And the judge came through and made the right decision that there was no violation of the defendant's rights or anybody else's rights.
Bull freaking shit. Not a kiss.
We've talked about this ad nauseum, and the answer is yes. Through the car, most likely. We had some amazing people going truly line by line over tens of thousands of white Hyundai Elantras. So we believe we would have got to it through that avenue. The time frame for that is uncertain. It could have been a week later, it could have been 2 months later. We just don't know. We would have found it.
There's a lot of questions in regards to that initial window. Brett and I made the decision on what that window was, even though the experts
Brett and
said
I, yeah,
there
you
may
ran
be
the
more
shit.
years that match it, but the simple numbers that we began to look at were astronomical, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of these vehicles. So we chose to try to narrow it and start smaller, and then as we had to, we were going to open that up. But we both believe we would have gotten through the car.
A question for Mr. Thompson. Amanda Rowley with Front 2. It appears that the plea deal, it felt a bit rushed. So the question is, why did it happen so quickly, considering some of the families were against it? And also, the Mogan family at the plea hearing mentioned saying that this is the best possible outcome. Just wondering, do you agree with that, or would you have liked to have seen a different outcome?
Well, I think we agree with the Mogan family. Our decision was that this is the best possible outcome, all things considered, and factoring into that, that the defendant was prepared to plead guilty as charged. Now, if that hadn't been a factor, we'd be picking a jury for trial starting right now, or starting this week. What was the first part?
Why was this such a quick? It felt rushed. So why did this happen so quickly, even though the family?
Now, I hear you. The process moved quickly. There was no doubt about it. And like I outlined for the court earlier today, things changed dynamically the week following the June 18th hearings on the defense motion for a continuance and the alternate perpetrator motion, where Judge Hippler made it very clear that the defense was not going to prevail on either of those. And so the reality of trial was there, and there was nothing else in its way. We were continuing to prepare for trial. We had been doing that for months. And as I mentioned, that's me bringing Mr. Hurwitz in to help us because the Attorney General's office was not able with the manpower to help us all the way through trial. We were ready to go. When we were approached by the defense about the possibility of a plea, our first question was, is your client prepared to plead guilty? And it took them a little while to give us that answer. In the meantime, we reached out to the families. And we talked to the families and we solicited their input. And we considered that in making our decision. The fact of the matter is, and I think Judge Hippler commented on this back on July 2nd when we were in court, is that the logistics of the upcoming trial with 10,000 prospective jurors being summoned in, the court staff making arrangements and preparing to process that part of the case.
So they didn't want to do their job?
If the case was going to resolve, it needed to resolve quickly. And so that kind of drove the pace over that weekend, the last weekend of June. At the end of the weekend, when we understood from the defense that the defendant was prepared to plead guilty, the court was notified the next morning, and the court wanted to move quickly to get a plea done on the record if it was going to be done, and if it wasn't, so we were not interrupted in our trial preparations.
The trial logistics were the main concern, just as Judge Hippler.
Listen to their
said,
bullshit.
Right, with the jury as a factor.
Yeah, the practical aspect is that the trial machine was running, and if it was going to be interrupted, that had to be known as soon as possible. I think that's the fairest explanation.
Yes, Michelle Benucci from 48 Hours. I just had a question about when we were looking into Koberger's past. Was there any early sign of trouble, or what did his background look like?
We didn't do that.
Well, we can't go into his younger years. I believe that's actually still under seal. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what I can tell you is the things we do know about him was that his education led him down a path that was very much focused on forensics, crime scenes, that sort of thing. So that was really what we focused on in his background, is what led him down this path. How may he have prepared for this? And I think that was a big component of that, was just his schooling and his choice of potential future profession.
And
What a
just so there's no
answer.
speculation here by what Detective Payne just said.
Yeah.
Documents under seal involving Mr. Koberger's background, they may or may not be released down the road. I can tell you that there is no evidence of any criminal history of any significant nature. There was no evidence of a history of violence. There was no evidence of a history of a factual predisposition to do the crimes.
Exactly. You got to clear your name.
So if there are any concerns among your listeners or readers that somehow he was a serial killer in waiting with all these prior actions, we are not aware of any behaviors like that.
Yeah, you got to get your record straight because you're going to get investigated, Santa Bill.
This question here, and then we're gonna have two more after that.
Yeah, I know our CPS questions for Mr. Thompson. Possibly you talked about his identification statements. Or if he was reached, including Gonzalez's, have you spoken with Gonzalez's afterward about their displeasure with this, and if so, what's that conversation?
We have spoken with families afterwards, and I can tell you that families that did not agree with our decision have made that very clear to us.
I wonder
And I
why.
don't expect anything different. I respect, and we respect, that everyone is going to grieve differently, even within family units. And everyone is going to look at the case and possible resolutions from their own light, and they are entitled to that as victims. I'm not going to pretend that everybody was just fine with our decision because they There were families and family members who were not. And we accept that. We recognize that. It's just a fact of life.
It was
Dude,
said
it's-
earlier that the target is unknown. However, it's been speculated that the convicted may have encountered Maddie while she was serving at the Magritte restaurant due to the deconvention options. When his digital data was analyzed, were there any location pins or any information there that could have connected him to where Maddie worked?
No, there wasn't. And like I said earlier, we wanted that. We looked for it in every possible way, digitally, financially, physical location, anything you could think of, anything that we thought, where is the connection? Where's the overlap? And we searched tirelessly and
So
never
he never
found
was
it.
at that restaurant.
I can't say that he was never there at all, but we never found any evidence at all from interviewing everybody that we possibly could, talking to every person that would have that information to be able to show that he was there or that there was a connection through the restaurant.
Last question here.
There's two follow-ups to earlier questions, if that's okay, so to make sure we're understanding really correctly. First of all, my question about the family. You said that you gave the evidence from the family. Was there any hindrance of the investigation for the family? And was there any specific evidence you were told to get?
Are you talking about his family, Coburgers? There was not any hindrance, anything, nothing that impacted us carrying out the investigation.
Thank you. And then the second follow-up, when you mentioned, like, obviously you follow this line of interest in the studies, did anything in your investigation indicate that that was chosen as part of a planning process as opposed to just an area of interest?
There was nothing aside from, we have some of his coursework where he did, a crime scene recreation, that sort of thing, but it was all part of his studies. So I don't think that any of us attributed that to a planning process per se. Certainly it was a learning process, but whether or not it was a planning process ahead of what he did, we'll probably never know that.
Yeah, and I would say we didn't find anything that would be any different than a student similar, a different student in the PhD program.
Gotcha. So then I'm understanding that the planning process, that during the investigation for that payment was part of that, that purchase of the electronic money. I was talking about the first, I guess, step toward.
Did he plan it? Did he buy it with the purpose of that? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
We don't
have
know.
anything to show or prove that he did that.
Well, thank you all. That concludes our Q&A section today. Hopefully we tried to get as many of you folks' questions answered as possible. I'm sure you're going to have further questions. And certainly the question was already brought up about public records requests. Just keep in mind that if you're looking for those in the future, you will need to go to each individual agency or entity that has the keepers of those records. So just to reiterate, the website that City of Moscow is going to be putting up hopefully today, that will only be Moscow Police Department records, and those will be our police reports. So we understand that this case has captured the attention of literally the world, and today's news conference was not held to relive the tragedy, but to honor those lives that were lost, to acknowledge the conclusion of this legal process and to reinforce our wavering commitment to justice, a commitment we share with you. I want to take a moment to thank the members of the media here today. We understand that you do have a vital role in helping the public comprehend the intricacies of this case, and your continued professionalism in covering this emotionally charged and complex case is appreciated. No additional comments from law enforcement will be made today, and if you have further questions, please feel free to submit those through the agency's public information officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. So let me take this off of here. Let me get these people to shut up out of my head in that conference. I feel like we just watched. Okay, I don't know what we just watched, but that was a bunch of bullshit. And now the angry Phoenix is here because the fact this is wrong. What we just saw was completely bullshit, in my humble opinion, allegedly. What I just witnessed was so much injustice in our court system that we are supposed to trust in. I just saw so much bullshit coming from our law enforcement representations in this case that we are supposed to trust. I just saw in our government system people that we are supposed to trust lie through their ever loving, dingy, short little man teeth and his handler standing next to him. That was definitely, like someone said in here, the Three Stooges dog and pony show. That's what I'm going to say. If you don't understand what we just witnessed and saw over the last couple of months that we've been sharing with you the truth about this case, I am so concerned with America's future. What you just saw was a test study against our criminal court system in regards to gathering your genetic DNA material and put you in a position where you could be, like they said, factually innocent. And you heard Bill go up there and quash those speculation rumors because he cannot, excuse me, he cannot disparage or defame Mr. Koberger. If those three individuals could have stood there and grew horns like the devil, I guarantee you they would have popped out then. I say, humbly, we do exactly what Xana's aunt said. We asked Koberger, what happened? We forgive you. Did you play a part in this, or were you set up for a cover up? I think Koberger had some type of AI filter on his face. I've got the video, I'll show it. Now, this picture is what really shocked me today. There are people in this picture that knows exactly what happened that night, early morning at 1122 Queen Road, aka King Road. No one is allowed. Absolutely. I talked about the silencing of Koberger for that 99 motion, no contact order motion. No, nothing. What we just witnessed are so many violations against our constitutional right. The state of Idaho, shame on you. Shame on you, leaders. Shame on you. Shame on the FBI in this case. Shame on those individuals. You swore to defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, yet you violated how many laws? Shame on you, Moscow Police Department, and shame on the district attorney. They all took an oath to swear to defend the Constitution. All you military members that are going along with this game, you swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. That wasn't just something you put your hand on the Bible and swore to and forget when you get out of service. That is an oath for life, just like the law enforcement. That is an oath that you take, not just while you serve, it's lifelong. FBI takes the same oath. LE does. Prosecutors do. Anybody in law and under the oath to defend and support the Constitution of the United States of America. What have we forgotten? That makes me look and feel in my gut, knowing something was wrong with this case and now seeing it play out. I feel like I got gut punched today. I was hoping somebody would man up and do the right thing, or woman up. This shows me how corrupt, and one of just a little bit of the reasons why I moved out of Idaho and moved to Arizona. This script, I feel like I've seen it before, and no, I'm not going to bust out singing Taylor Swift, but I feel like I've seen this before. I feel like I've seen this in a couple of other cases, and you may have too, but your eyes were not open yet. Your ears weren't open to hear the truth. What in the world were they thinking, that we all were just going to go along with the story they gave us? No, these constitutional rights were violated. The IGG with the FBI, guys, the only way they can get around doing that is in a murder or a sexual assault. There was no sexual assault per the prosecutor. I just got a notice from a friend that knows somebody that in this family of one of the victims, that undercover cops just showed up at their house while I'm on this live. And I hope that some of these families are protected, guys, because what we just witnessed was a massive cover up for some really evil, bad people out there. And if you can't see it yet, you're going to hear it, you're going to know it. And I sure hope the DOJ does come and investigate these individuals. Every single last one of them. Who am I? No one. Ex-military, grandma, wife, veteran, mom with an autism son. I know nothing. Had court cases in Idaho that I've won. Civil cases, criminal cases. I'm a nobody. I just know that when I see shit like this, I can't shut up. And you know what's funny? There was a high up detective in one of my cases that wrote, I don't think this is the last time we're going to hear from her. She's not going to shut up. And boy, yeah, I'll expose every single corrupt individual in Idaho. You little old good old boy network down there in Canyon County. I wonder if they even know I have my own stream now. Boy, I bet they'd be shaking in their boots. I can only tell you what I know and what I've experienced to be truth and factual in court records. And the state of Idaho is pretty stinky, you all. And I don't get mad very often, but boy, when I see people in uniform, people that we are supposed to trust and put our trust in to protect and serve, and when I see district attorneys and prosecutors standing up there in a court of law, you know, the court of law is a business, guys. Business and integrity should go hand in hand. Is this the kind of law in the country that we want in our court system? Is this what you want in your own cities, in your own courthouse, in your own towns and cities? Every freaking individual up there stood up and lied to you. How does that make you feel? You should be fuming right now. Your gut should feel like you just got kicked in the gut with some LE boot. It is disgraceful. And you know what? It should really piss you guys off that know the truth and been following the truth. We've been giving you the truth. Birdie, Devil's Advocate, Sammy T, myself. There's a handful of other people that have been giving you the truth. And there is no way this corruption will carry on my watch. I'll be one of the few that stands up. I'm one of the few that runs for city council. I'm one of the few where I am that will stand up for corruption. What will you do? What about Brian? Has anybody asked that? Has anybody said, what about Brian? Our eyes are all on these 4 that have been, unfortunately, deceased. But we know for a fact he was factually innocent. They didn't want to go to trial because they knew they couldn't pin it on him. Brian took the fall. Brian fell on the sword to protect everyone, you guys. I sure hope they compensate him somehow. I sure hope that with this cover-up, he makes out. I sure hope they know that we know they're lying. And then Moscow's going to put up a website so that you can go and look at fake reports. They've had time to doctor those too. And if this picture doesn't piss you off, I don't know what will, because 2 of these individuals in this picture know exactly what the fuck happened. Excuse my French. I'll apologize for it later. But if you don't know that I'm fired up, I am freaking fired up. Not because of these 2, because of the 3 you just saw lie their asses off and spit on the Constitution of the United States of America. And how did they do that? They used an unlawful practice to go against the constitutional rights of an individual in the 4th and the 14th Amendment. Unlawful search and seizure. God forbid if it was trash. They couldn't get Koberger's prints. They had to come up with some other option. So they took his dad's prints, ran him through a network. Oh, and found he was related to somebody who had a criminal background in their family. And if you don't think that this was a case study for what's happening in the stock market, Birdie called it last night. I've been watching it slowly rise. Slowly rise. And this is a bunch of bullshit that you've just witnessed live. I'll be on live later. I'm going to talk about where will Brian go from here, because you already know the judge knows where he's not going, which all these news reporters have been reporting left and right. He'll be here and he'll die here in a little cell with no contact, and that's a bunch of bullshit. The prison he's going to has a mental ward, and it's hard to qualify to get in there, but they already had the testing and the assessment done by the court to where he will be going to where he may thrive until they can exonerate him legally. This is a bunch of cover up and lies. So now the question is, what's next for Brian? Because you've seen over the last 3 years what these families have done to make money, buy new homes, buy $1 million homes. You've seen that. And now my contact just tells me that part of SG's family has an undercover cop that just arrived at their house. That threat will never go away, Steve G. They know they won. They know they threw the guy under the bus, and they're out on the streets still. Bethany will have to look over the shoulder the rest of her life. Think about that. Think about Dylan with the nightmares that she can't get out of her head. Think about it. We've showed you all the evidence. We've not kept anything from you. Raul Labrador, he's another traitor. Go look and see what his constituents in his state are suing him for. It's disgusting. And yet they all stand up there like they're heroes. These men are cowards. Pure cowards. They have betrayed the United States. They are traitors. And they're just trying to push the agenda to make their jobs easier. Is that what we're doing? Obviously, these are all my humble opinions, all my speculation, alleged accusations. I am not here to defame anyone, disparage anyone, slander anyone, because this is my First Amendment right of freedom of speech. This is so disrespectful to America, to the working class America that are pigeonholed into crimes they didn't do, that they have to take plea deals. Innocent people take plea deals, guys, and it's really sad. If Steve was half the man to stand up and say you picked the wrong family, who was he saying that to? Because he sure got up there and turned that podium all the way around. Who was he really talking to? So, like I always say, you guys, be well, know the law, know your constitutional rights. Phoenix out.
want to. This ain't no ordinary stream. From the ashes, Phoenix talks manifesting the dream. Got a growing channel, YouTube's where the wisdom resides. For all the nest members.